So when we talk about attitudes in chapter 6, young people, it speaks to, again, what do you like, don't like, what do you love, what do you hate, and how these things form. We've been talking about, again, we talked about the development of the self. The previous chapter, again, looked at how we perceive other people and what we attribute their behavior to. In this chapter, we want to look at, again, how attitudes are formulated. And again, our likes, our dislikes, our preferences. Where do these come from? What makes it where Jakira really likes mama's boys? What makes it where Ron really loves big boned women who are about a foot taller than him? Just something about them. Why don't you like crowds? Why are you why do you like organized religion? Why don't you? Why do you like this race and why don't you like that race? Whatever the attitude is, we believe that, with any social science behavior, that we can find a way to measure it. And when we talk about measurements, it's like, empirical numbers that we can put on things. So we often ask, like, what's your attitude? Like, the American attitude towards abortion, the American attitude on legalizing marijuana, the American attitude on the death penalty. So we give surveys and stuff like that all the time. But one of the things that you also want to be very mindful about, Jakira, is that sometimes other people besides ourselves can change our attitudes for us. This song that you didn't think that you liked, Ron, I'm going to put a whole bunch of naked girls in the video and I'm going to persuade you to like this song. You ain't going to know why. But you're going to be in the club like, hell yeah, this is my jam. Like, dude, do you not see how dumb that song is? No, this is my jam. I like it because I just chose to like it. And again, all of us are persuadable. We're human beings. But we want to, and it is totally okay and healthy to change your attitude. There are many things that I may have felt a certain way, Maisha, when I was 18. I may have felt differently when I was 30. You all have experienced that, right? As we talked about, again, as we grow and mature, these things are natural. Some things, again, that you might not have liked when you were a child, maybe you do now. My father used to be playing jazz and stuff all the time when I was a shorty, and we hated it. Like, dude, why are you playing this stuff all the time? He would say, Kareem, you gonna like jazz one day. I was like, dude, I ain't gonna never like no jazz, man. It's some old folks music. My father was right. I think I probably like jazz today more than he does. That was a process so that I went through. I won't say that. So what do y'all think is one of the main things that persuaded me? What do you think persuaded me? We've been talking about persuasion. What persuaded me?
The fact that you were around it, it was in your environment. Like you kept hearing it, like you're used to it. So it's kind of stuck in your mind.
That absolutely played a role, no question. Hip hop music persuaded me more than anything, though. A lot of the music that I will be listening to coming up, they would sample a whole bunch of jazz records. And I'm like, damn, okay, maybe this is kind of dope after all. Like when I hear Pete Rock and Q-Tip do it like this, now I kind of see. So that was a way to kind of form a connection. But also, you're right, Rob, the exposure. Maisha Hayesworth.
I was also going to say, like, the connection that you hold with jazz music into your dad. Like,
Good,
that
excellent.
might be something.
Excellent. Yes, that in many ways it absolutely, that I don't just associate it with the music itself. Like I associate it, with my father, like in our relationship. Absolutely. Jakira McLeod.
Pretty much a sum of that, but I was gonna say that the repetition of it. So the amount of times your father may have played it throughout the house, and then after a while, it's crazy because you'll hear jazz music at the house, and then next thing you know, randomly you'll probably hear it somewhere else, and it's like, what the heck? Like how I keep seeing these, like it's almost like it's weird, but yeah, I just want to.
But two important things there, very good. we talk all the time, right, about theories about human behavior that explaining cause and effect, that we don't believe people are just persuaded from nowhere. So we want to look at like, okay, what is causing this persuasion? And you're right, like repetition is a great way of doing that. And then the thing that you talked about, Maisha, is like that, you know, emotional connection. So like, so who mainly tries to persuade us and try to change our attitudes in this country? Like, what is the main source of persuasion?
Parents?
Close, no.
The media,
Yes.
like
and specifically through advertising. Yes, Maisha, advertising. I know you don't want this product, Latavia, but let me tell you why you need it. If you change your own mind and decide that, today, I am like, you know, after this class, I'm going to go get me a Chipotle steak Subway. And I can tell you exactly where that started. I was watching TV last night and like the Subway Draymond Green, Jason Tatum commercial came on. I was like, damn, I ain't had no Subway in a minute. That shit look good. I'm getting one tomorrow. They got me. However, Latavia, I am conscious of this process. I know I'm getting gagged. Does that make it better? Maybe, maybe not. But all of us, again, there are attempts to make, so our parents are definitely trying to persuade us. A lot of the things that, you know, your parents are trying to persuade you to, you should listen to, Jakira. They really got your best interest at heart. Some of it seems crazy right now, I know. But lady's like, okay, yeah, y'all was right about that. So yes, they're definitely trying to persuade you, and they use all types of different techniques to try and do it. Many attitudes right now, I got these things up here, and don't feel like you got to take notes on everything that's being that's on the screen. Please don't do that. That's not education. These are things that people have attitudes about. And many of these things you might not care about. So most things, people ain't really got no attitude about one way or the other, Ron. It's a billion and 13 things that you just don't give a damn about. So ISIS, same-sex marriage, abortion, marijuana legalization, those are things that you may have some really pronounced opinions about. That no, I think that everybody should be able to smoke weed, or no, I think that weed should be illegal because of this, this, and that. You may have a really strong attitude about. Stem cell research, you might not have thought about that much. Stem cell research very quickly, Maisha, it's like, and I ain't no natural scientist, so bear with me, Latavia, but essentially, they take like the cell of another living animal and they can like duplicate it, where if you had to get a leg amputated or something like that, they can use these cells to reduplicate the cells, and they can like replace body parts potentially. So there's a lot of controversy over there, because some people say, oh my God, you're acting like God. But we do that in the medical profession quite a bit. 1 second, Ron. I know most people, of course, have no opinion, no opinion about the Dallas Cowboys whatsoever, but a lot of people do. Just all types of haters and stuff out there, Jakir, for no reason. Like, yeah, if I was like a Carolina Panther fan, if I was like, Atlanta Falcon fan, like nobody would have anything to say about my team. But everybody got something to say about the Cowboys. Like everybody has an opinion. So again, there are some things that, you might not care that much about, the New York Jets. You might not care that much about, Amy Klobuchar. She's, a senator from Minnesota. But Donald Trump, you may have some very pronounced attitudes and opinions about. Ron Anderson.
About just a quick mental note about the stem cells. To my knowledge, again, do your own research, but to my knowledge, one of the main sources to get stem cells is from like fetuses. Because again, if a newer life, it's kind of, the cells aren't designed to do what, they don't have a purpose yet. You know what I'm saying? So that's the controversy that I heard with the research was like, when people have miscarriages, can we have fetus, or like, if people give, it's not, let me say, not like a born baby, but more so of like the embryo in a sense.
Right.
That's the controversy that I'm aware of. I just want to say that.
No, I think that lines up. Again, like, it is not something I have researched thoroughly. I remember during the Bush administration a few years back, it was controversial for a minute. Then it kind of died off the public radar. So I remember hearing about it, but like most people, I be having 10 billion other things going on. So I could give a fuck about those type of things. That doesn't mean that it's okay, but again, most things people just are not that concerned about. And that's okay. One of my great disappointments, like the hot takeification of America, Ryan, on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, everybody can have an opinion and attitude about everything. Like, dude, you don't know anything about this. Like, I don't know very much about stem cell research. So my lack of knowledge makes me feel uncomfortable forming an opinion. I like to have opinions and attitudes about things I actually know about or give it some thought. That don't seem to really be the criteria these days. I ain't never thought about this topic before today, but I got this really pronounced opinion about what Dwayne Wade should be doing with his children. Like me, I don't care what the hell Dwayne Wade should be doing with his kids, dog. If you do, God bless you. But all these different things, it's like this celebrity is doing and this celebrity is doing. All the Jussie Smollett stuff, when that stuff was going on in Chicago, I didn't care about none of that stuff either. But everybody got to have an attitude about everything. It's really annoying. I apologize for being on the soapbox. An attitude refers to a positive, negative, or mixed reaction to a person, object, or idea. Again, positive, negative, there most things, again, like so, Brussels sprouts, you know, I don't have that much of an opinion or attitude on one way or the other. Sure, they're good for you. I don't really care. And I would like to believe that's okay. And also know, though, that it is possible, Ron, to hold conflicting attitudes about the same thing at both a conscious and unconscious level. Keep in mind, right, that we talked about before with Freud, so much of our behavior and ideas is informed by our subconscious, things that are in the back of our mind. So there may be some things that you have a negative attitude about that you can't fully explain and put your hands on, put your finger on. And our attitude formation is often very quick. We form attitudes about things and oftentimes lifelong attitudes. I don't like Mexican people for forever and a day because of this. This that happened today when I'm 6 years old, I decided I'm never finna like these people ever again. That's how a lot of like people process the world, like real talk. That yes, like you know, like I said, I didn't like jazz when I was younger. All types of things I didn't like when I was a child. I grew and matured, I evolved, I got exposed to different things. So we want to be, and I have found many times, Latavia, that my implicit attitude, my quick forming attitude has been wrong. Last chapter, we talked about perceiving persons. And what that spoke to is like, you know, again, that a lot of times we have impressions of people and we form them very quickly, and it might not always be accurate. They're usually not. But again, attitudes, right? So we measuring attitudes, the most effective way that we do this in our in social sciences. I won't say the most effective, but one of the most common. I actually don't think it's one of the most effective, quite frankly. But it's through the use of surveys. We talked about the different research methods. You all have to speak about some of those in the paper that's coming up, I believe. And there are many different types of surveys. But the main thing they're trying to do is get people's attitudes about different things. So particularly corporations, right? Again, they're trying to, the corporations in big business and advertisers in particular, they're laboring to try and persuade us of things, but they try and get a lot of information from us first. So before GM decides like, hey, we want to make a self-driving car, they probably want to ask people, Latavia, like, hey, would you buy a self-driving car? Because otherwise, like, hey, we got 100,000 self-driving cars, they ready to go to the market. People like, nah, dog, I'm good on that. Again, you want to get information. So that, like, whether it be something like this, or if we're gonna, like, you know, students will say like, hey, let's introduce this new major. But if it's not a lot of demand for that major across the United States, then no, we're not gonna offer that. Again, we got to get data on these things. It can save you a lot of time and information. So 33% of Americans will never consider buying or leasing a self-driving car. Again, this is not something I had a strong opinion about, but as I think about it now, I don't think, yeah, I need to be in control, dog. I'm not going to be trusting this car to be doing whatever. Or at least after, like, it's going to have to be in the marketplace for like 5 or 10 years before I'm, fuck with that stuff too tight. 80, something that I did not, again, like something that's been very much in the news particularly under COVID, is the process of vaccinations. So I was shocked to see that 82% believe that childhood vaccination should be mandatory, Again, this is something that, especially with me not being a parent myself, a lot of my friends have spoken about this who are parents. For me, myself, it's not something that I have necessarily had a strong opinion about one way or the other. 74% people said that they would delete themselves from internet searches if they could. 70% say they do not feel engaged or inspired at their jobs. 88% trust online reviews of products and services. So again, the point here, again, you ain't got to copy this down. It's just all the ways that we measure different attitudes in our society. And no doubt, some of you all have participated in some of these measurements as well. Like you'll do, again, the student evaluation surveys is going to be an attitude about this class. Did I learn anything? Was elections boring as hell? Did the class always start late? Was I not clear what we were supposed to do? And those attitudes, again, are supposed to be helpful where, again, we get this information and we learn ways that we should improve and do better. We can measure attitudes through a couple of different measures. So we can do self-report measures, again, mainly through surveys. And you can do an attitude scale. This is where you do like agree, strongly disagree. But as we talked about, sometimes not only is a lot of our information like our thinking and attitudes, a lot of it is subconscious, meaning that, maybe you don't like, you don't like people that are clowns for a living, but you can't really explain why. Maybe you had something happen in your childhood that kind of traumatized you a little bit, but it's in the back of your mind. So covert measures, oftentimes, again, like we talk about attitudes like prejudice, we're going to talk about that in detail in the second half of the class. An attitude like prejudice, most people, if you give them a survey, Jakira, and you say, hey, do you hate Black people, especially if you're the one giving the survey, they may be less inclined to answer that question honestly. But through the technology, there are ways that we can still get that information. So for example, an implicit association test, where I put a face on the screen and I record your immediate natural reaction. So if every time a Black face on the screen, you jump back a little bit. You don't even know that you're doing it. Or you frown. And I'm studying you again, I'm watching your face. And I'm like, man, every time we get some dark-skinned sisters over here, Ron be frowning. Like, what's going on? Like, and I may ask Ron, like, Ron, what type of women do you prefer? I like the dark-skinned chocolate honeys. That's what he's saying verbally. But maybe when we do this implicit association test, he responds more positively when he sees the red bones. Again, prejudice, police, there's like one of the things in terms of trying to retrain police officers. Because again, like everybody has some level of prejudice, Jakira. What we want to do though is to be aware and mindful of our prejudice and try and find some ways where it doesn't impact how you do your job, particularly in a job like police work. So in this way, right, they do tests where, I think I've talked about this before here, maybe in social research, where it's almost like a video game, Ron, where if you playing Grand Theft Auto or something like that, or Fortnite, and somebody got to appear on the screen real quick, and you got to react, and you got to shoot them really quick. People shoot the Black faces at a much higher rate than they do white faces. There have been study after study after study that has shown that. Do your own research. And in this way, right, so Jakira was talking about earlier, prejudice, right, where it's not something that people are born with, but you talked about the way that we learn anything. One of the reasons why I stress so much in education is the way that you learn is through repetition. So It's easy for people to become prejudiced in our society because the repetitive messages that you hear about Black people are usually very negative. Like most Black people are very prejudiced against other Black people. You got to consciously work hard to avoid your prejudice and biases. It's okay for you not to like some stuff. You know, again, here in the Bible Belt, I tell people all the time, like, look, if you don't want to like gay people, that is totally your right. You can do that. But whether you like it or not, you're going to have to be working in a world where it's going to be people of different sexual persuasion than you. And you're going to get yourself fired and you're going to lose a lot of money by treating people poorly because they don't behave like you do. So have all the negative attitudes you want. Like, again, you ain't got to like all Black people, police officers. That's cool. Just don't allow that to like affect your work. That's possible. Like, I love Black people. I'm biased towards Black people without apology. So in my leadership roles, I will have to make sure that I'm not treating my white faculty any different than the Black faculty. By being conscious of the fact that, you know, I'm biased towards Black people, it helps me to do that. When we talk about how, and there are many theories attempt to explain the relationship between variables and some level of cause and effect. The one theory is that strong likes and dislikes that are programmed into our genetic makeup, that again, that we believe in social science, that most of the things, again, we learn from our environment. But there is a wide school of thought that says there are all types of things that are genetic as well. And Tesser is amongst those who says that even our dislikes are made up in our genetics. Some of this we might see like with food, for example, that there might be some food, it's like, so fish, I'm allergic to fish. I wish I was not. Be looking good, be smelling good, try and eat it, it'd be problems. I can't learn to like it. People be trying to get me to do this stuff, Jakir. Like, you know, hey, just try it. Well, if the way I make it, you'll like it. No, I won't.
And it still be nasty.
Say it again. Say it again, Maisha.
It still be nasty.
And some things, again, like you just ain't gonna, and that's okay. It is okay to like, look, even though, like I said, like I don't have a issue and really don't care very much about like people's sexuality, like who you have sex with. It's your business, got nothing to do with me whatsoever. I do have some very strong old school attitudes about, you know, like femininity and masculinity. Like I do. That don't mean that I'm right, but I am totally understood and clear on my attitudes and stuff. Like, so yeah, so all this stuff with like the dudes is showing their ass and all that, and like, you know, and wearing purses, like, you know, so yeah, so like I'm not necessarily thrilled with like, you know, the presentation of like, you know, of Dwayne Wade's son, but it ain't none of my business. And what they do, what folks like that do, doesn't have any kind of impact upon me whatsoever. So we'll talk about the ABCs. When we talk about the ABCs of behavior, there are some attitudes that you may have where, okay, it may just bother you inside. It may be some attitudes where you may feel like that you have to say something or do something. This is where you get into like hate crimes and stuff like that. But our most cherished attitudes, right, are learned through, again, exposure. Like Jakira talked about with Jazz, has been exposed to it over and over again. So when parents are trying to persuade Ron, they're trying to expose you to the teachings of Christ with the hopes that, again, it becomes second nature to you. So yes, you go into Sunday school, you go into the Wednesday class, and hell yeah, we go to church on Friday. You better not be thinking you're finna go to that football game with your friends. I'm gonna persuade you that this is the value system that you want to ascribe to. Sometimes it works. We also, again, get rewards and punishments. If I don't see you in if you ain't on time for Sunday school, don't be expecting like to use the car this week, Jakira. Our attitudes that are expressed by our parents, friends, and even our enemies. That one of the things, like, you know, like I was arguing with a friend who was like trying to like say that like you know, that there's no like that voting wasn't important. It didn't matter who won the last election. And I tried to get him to think like, look at all the people that hate you and how they're voting and like what team they're riding with. Like Biden and these folks definitely got their problems, but look at all the people that hate you and how they're positioning themselves. That maybe should give you a sense of what your attitude maybe should evolve to. Jakira McLeod.
I was just gonna say you pretty much helped me out there as far as like the enemy part. I know how parents and friends can, but enemies, it makes sense that way. It does.
Absolutely. So think like, look, if you was thinking about, you know, like get some dress and then you see like what the AKA, just hypothetically speaking, the AKAs is rocking it. Oh hell no, I'm definitely not doing that. I know you ain't that type, but you know what I'm saying. But those kind of things happen where it's like, look, if somebody that I know I don't rock with is doing this, wow, I got to go in the opposite direction. Hell no. And it sounds crazy, but you know. So it's like, yeah, if too many racist white people are agreeing with something, I might need to examine my attitude. Like, okay, if I'm saying the same thing, if I'm agreeing with them on something, I might need to unpack this a little bit. Not always the case, but you know, sometimes. And then our social and cultural context is really important again, particularly in a segregated country like ours, where you got Chinese people that grow up around like other Chinese people, Dominican cats that grow up around other Dominican cats, Cubans that grow up around Cubans, that the attitudes we're supposed to have, like, so like an attitude, for example, about like about whooping your kids. On some cultures, the attitude is like, oh my God, you should never strike a child. It's just a child. God, I can't believe it. Oh my goodness, it's a precious little kid. Other coaches is like, oh, hell no. I come from the Bernie Mac school, Michael. I will fuck a kid up. It's like y'all probably saw like that video with Cam Newton. Cam Newton, that kid is lucky at the old school, dog. You get kicked in your damn stomach. Out here talking crazy to grown folks. You know, but since Cam was on camera and he knew that other coaches might see, he had to restrain himself. And those type of things are important. And again, there are cultures where, again, the rules and norms may be different and the attitudes may be different. Attitudes about, you know, child beating, attitudes about like physical abuse of women, attitudes about whether or not the women should work in a home or whether or not they should get a job. Attitudes about what careers are appropriate for women. That a lot of these things are influenced by the cultures that we come from. And it's really important that, you know, you're cognizant of these processes. We're all influenced by something. We're influenced by a great deal of many things. And again, that's okay. I would really challenge you to think long and hard about the things that influence you. And like I said, you know, like I love my parents to death, but they have like, you know, traditional gender roles, which I don't like fully agree with. Man, like again, my father, he can't cook nothing, probably don't know how to clean the bathroom. Something happened to my mama, he gonna probably survive about 10 minutes. My mother was very deliberate about socializing, again, and that ain't to diss my father, he grew up in different times. My mother raised her kids very differently. He's like, oh, hell no. Like, y'all finna, you know, you finna be washing some dishes. Kareem, I'm gonna give you the 13. Then you finna be cleaning your own bathroom. I'm not finna keep wiping your piss up for you. Before that, Ron, I didn't see what the big deal was. Like, why is she tripping? Dang. Then I started having to clean my own bathroom. I was like, oh, okay. I guess cleaning this stuff off the toilet rim can be kind of annoying. Maybe she had a point. So within, like, we're going to talk the next chapter, Ryan, is going to talk about interpersonal relationships. And when we talk about romantic relationships, one of the most important things you got to be thinking about is, what are y'all attitudes about different stuff, dog? If she was raised in a family where the attitudes are the women are expected to be very independent and go-getters and speak their mind, and you coming from more traditional family, Michael, where the attitude is that, you know, women like, hey, my woman's supposed to stay at home and have my dinner ready at a certain time. Y'all gotta have them discussions, dog. Particularly again, when you're getting married, and trust me on this one, marriage is a combination of values. What do y'all believe in? If it's for all that other stuff, y'all can date and kick it for that, man. But marriage, like, y'all got it, like, y'all attitudes need to be very much aligned. Conflicts in adult relationships more times than not are derived from this more than anything else. And this don't mean that you got to have total agreement. That's going to be impossible, Jakira. You're not going to like agree with your dude about everything. You probably shouldn't. But there are probably some attitudes where it's like, you know, if you're definitely like, you know, totally anti-abortion and he's not, if you expected Ron to, like, you know, for the kids to go to church every week, and that's not her social attitude and expectation, you know, that can cause a lot of conflict. We'll make those connections more deeply next week. And we talked about the ABCs, right? Affect, behavior, cognitive. Ideally, Jakira, all these things line up. They don't always, though. And again, you may have an attitude where, you know, I know I want to stop drinking so many Red Bull. My behavior may not like align with that. Drug addicts, again, they know that, you know, like they want to stop doing crack. They want to stop doing heroin, opioids. People that smoke cigarettes, like, again, they know that they have an attitude that they want to stop smoking. It's difficult. But attitude, so you got to be mindful about that. A lot of times, right, that we think that, again, a person's attitude, that if they say a certain, if this girl is telling you a certain thing when she's 21, that's going to like impact her behavior going forward. I heard her say it. And that can happen. Attitudes can significantly, like, you know, predict future behavior. We talk about all the time the power of the human mind. So you talk about, you know, you want to put, like, you know, you don't want to put certain things in the universe because, you know, our attitudes, you know, positive or negative, can correlate with actual behavior. So I was talking to somebody the other day in a professional capacity. They were like, well, if this happens, blah, blah, blah. And then they caught themselves like, no, when this happens. A couple more things before we break. We'll have a short session here today. So we talk about persuasion, right? We've been talking about attitudes and what attitudes are. But there are many efforts afoot to change our attitudes. So attitude change assault, again, the one that you mentioned, Ron, that parents, again, are very deliberate about trying to affect your attitudes about certain things, your attitudes about school, your attitudes about chores, your attitudes about how to treat your siblings, your attitudes about how to eat healthy. And again, as we talked about, right, like, you know, where we talking about interpersonal relationships, that, Ron, if you're having a lot of these conversations with your parents, and then you end up, you know, meeting people or meeting a girl, and they're not having those kind of, because again, not everybody's parents is having these kind of conversations. There are some parents that, again, they have the children and just kind of, you know, hey, whatever happens, they'll figure it out. So, like, you know, again, I imagine most of you all want to be parents one day. I really encourage you to really, like, take to heart some of the things that we're talking about here. Because if you're like, you know, this don't mean, like, you know, please believe that your parents ain't gonna, like, you know, all, like, there's no parent who's gonna be like, everything that we taught our child, they're finna do this, like, you know, perfectly. That's not finna happen. People are still individuals. But if you know that there are certain things that you want, your children to possess, do know that those things are just happenstance. Religious groups see converts all the time. So Jehovah's Witness is probably going to be coming to y'all door this weekend trying to persuade you. Financial analysis. Again, so a couple weeks back, hey, Corinne, you need to get on this GameStop, dog. You need to invest. Yeah, it's the same thing I said at the time, Ron. Trial lawyers, again, they're trying to change the attitude of a jury. You probably have seen enough evidence, Michael, to believe that George Zimmerman really did kill this boy. But I'm going to persuade you that what you thought, you didn't really think. Pretty powerful stuff, right? Couple more points and we'll break for the day. Persuasion is a process by which attitudes are changed. The process by which attitudes are changed. You like something, now you don't like it. There are two routes of persuasion. There's a central route. Ron, you better like this broccoli that you got on your plate, or no video games for a week. There can also be a peripheral route. Ron, I know you said you want to be on the football team when you get to high school. Don't you want to be like big and strong? You need to eat your vegetables, baby. So the peripheral, and most parents, they're going to use both of them at different points, right? Again, we talk about person perception. That sometimes if you only see this person, if I come over to Ron's crib and I see the central route being used, I'm like, damn, Ron's mama mean as hell. But I didn't see all the time, so she tried to use peripheral. And Ron's stubborn butt wasn't listening, so now what else she's supposed to do? Keep this in mind for yourselves. You're going to have to persuade people of many things over time. We'll begin on Thursday looking at the central route to persuasion a little bit more deeply. Maisha, our meeting will begin. Use the link that I sent you. Our meeting will begin at 3:20. Please make sure that you stay up to speed with the reading, young people. If you have any questions about anything, you know how to get a hold of me. We have not had our pop quiz yet. You know it's coming soon. Say it again.
Oh, can you repeat what you just said? My phone started breaking up a little bit.
I said we'll start where we left off today. Make sure that you stay up to speed with the reading. For any pop quiz that may be coming up, and the midterm exam, which is just a few weeks away.
Okay, gotcha.
Reading.